article that I saw, you wrote to the paper in the late 70s.
Yes, I was living in Crescent Head then, I think.
So, well, when did it take place? Do you remember?
It was in the afternoon, and I was walking up to pick some flowers. I used to pick wildflowers and put them in the vase at home when I lived on the River, about 10 miles from Crescent Head. That's only about 10 miles, a bit more, to Port Macquarie. It's between Port Macquarie and Crescent Head. Yeah, well, I walked up into the bush this afternoon. I used to go up there pretty well every day. Look, I loved wildflowers. I just got nearly to where I was going to, and I saw this big thing standing behind a stump, sort of had its head around the side of the stump. It was about as tall as a man, but it had its head sort of sitting on its shoulder, didn't have sort of much neck. It was more like an ape or something, but it stood up real straight. It had hair all over it, its arms everywhere, just like monkeys do. And it seemed to be watching me, so I took off then back to the house, and I told Mum. And she said, oh, it'd only be a kangaroo. I said, no, it's not a kangaroo. I said, it's standing up straight, and it's about 6 foot high, and it looks like a man. I said, it would be as tall as my father was, and he was 6 foot tall. And they never believed me, but since that, my son has heard of some up in, just out from the Gold Coast. A bloke saw one there.
Oh, okay.
They're still about, they reckon.
If I can go back to your experience, so you were 12 years old at the time.
Yes.
Could I ask how old you are now?
83 now. I've got a pretty good memory, haven't I?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
What time of the day was it that you had the experience?
In the afternoon, I'd be between 3 and 4 o'clock, but I wouldn't go up there too late. It was, say, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
You lived in the area there at the time?
Yes, lived there.
And you had what? You lived with your brothers and sisters, Mum and Dad?
My mother and father there. When I was only 12 years old, I went to school from there. We used to ride to Crescent Head School.
Where you saw the animal, was it in the bush or was it in a sort of an open area?
I was in the bush, but there was a track used to go up through there. I used to go along the track. It was real sandy ground, and we had a windmill there, like and a trough for the cattle. And he probably used to drink there at that, because there would have been water, would have been miles away, like there was gullies there, but the water wouldn't be dirty. And
Okay, so how did you first notice the creature?
I don't know, I was just walking up the woods where I used to go every year, and there was flowers growing along the edge of the road. And I just happened to look across there towards that stump, and I saw it.
About how far away was it from you?
It was about, would have took me about 5 minutes to walk, or less than 5 minutes to walk to where it was.
So it was a fair distance away?
No, I could get a good view of it. It was only about 100 yards or less.
What was the first thing you noticed? Was it sort of peeking around the stump?
Yeah, it seemed to have its head around the stump, and seemed like it was watching me, but I'm not sure what it was doing.
Did you get a good look at all its body, or just sort of the head and the shoulders, or?
I could see the lot. I could see it all, right to its feet. Down near the stump, and where I was, I could see it clear, because there was an old gate then. I just went towards the gate, and I was going to open the gate and go through, but when I saw that, I wheeled and took off down to the house. I thought they might go up and have a look, but they didn't believe me, so.
What sort of colour was the hair?
Sort of a greyish colour.
A light grey or a dark grey?
A dark sort of grey.
Now the hair on it, did it look short, sort of like a bear or a very well-kept dog, or was it sort of longer?
Fairly thick hair on it, but I got a good view of it, but I couldn't sort of get a good view of its face, but it didn't have a man's face, I know that.
Did it have a lot of hair on the face as well?
Yeah. Something like the face of an ape or something like that.
Did you get a look at the arms?
Yes, it had long, hairy arms.
You mentioned their long arms. Did it look longer than a person, or sort of the same?
Longer than a person, I think.
Was it a thin animal or a fairly solid animal?
It was pretty solid. I wouldn't like it to got hold of me. Oh.
Was it moving very much, or did it stay pretty still?
Just standing there, never moved. But just standing there. I didn't go back up there that day. I wish my mother or father had went up and had a look. It might have been still there. Because they reckon there was no such thing, but there is. I've heard about them since a lot. And down that way up the river and up at 5 Day Creek and about, I've seen them, sighted them, and their footprints and that.
Is that in the same area?
It's up river from here, where they get logs from and bring down to Kempsey.
When you saw this thing, about how long did you have it in view for, do you think, all up, before you took off?
About 5 minutes. I looked out, I thought it's a man standing there first, and I thought, no, a man would have clothes, and it didn't have clothes, it just had hair all over it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned it had no neck. Did that look kind of odd?
Yes. It's sort of its head seemed to be sitting on its shoulders. It wasn't a man, and it definitely wasn't a wallaby. It was tall. I'd say it was nearly 6 foot tall. When I got closer to it, I think it would stop there, but I was too scared to go too close.
Did you tell anybody about it?
Yes, I've told a lot of people about it. Since there was another person seen one up north, they believe me now, a lot of people.